Hello, my name is Matt Bird, and welcome to the PublishU podcast, where we explore the real life stories of authors from around the world. Today, I'm joined by Aaron Anderson from Pennsylvania in the USA, who has written a book called Unlikely Good. Aaron, welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me, Matt. Good to be with you.
Yeah, you too, my friend. So, for those people out there who haven't met you before, tell us about you.
That's a long story, but fast is I live here in the U.S. I have a wife and six kids and a grandbaby.
Wow.
Yeah, grandbaby. Now we live here in York, Pennsylvania, which is a little town on the East Coast. You know, it's kind of close to New York, D.C. And I serve as CEO of a small school that's really focused on serving kids that are under-resourced. And then I also serve as the lead pastor of a large congregation here. And so I live in a dual role and get to do some really neat work in my community.
Yeah, sounds amazing. So tell us a little bit more about the school. How do you define, I think you said underserved?
Yeah, underserved or under-resourced. Really, kids, our school has a set of bylaws that says two-thirds of our students need to be kids that live in poverty by US federal poverty levels. So these are kids who live in one of the poorest actually zip codes or sets of zip codes in actually in the United States. York, Pennsylvania. While it's a small town, it has a very like strong core of poverty, and so these kids live in a school district that is a considered by the state a failing school district. So where test scores are really low. Home life can be challenging. The community has a lot of issues, and we're a K to 12 school, a Christ-centered school in this environment, and it's very unique. We've been running this school since 1998, and trying to give kids an opportunity to thrive and have hope and some
Yeah,
opportunity in this culture.
yeah, amazing. Yeah, I look back very fondly upon one of my teachers, Mr. Alul, who believed in me when nobody else did. And it made the world a difference to how I finished my schooling, which was not a great time. So it's a wonderful, wonderful thing you're doing. And, just one teacher who cares that little bit more, makes that little bit more effort can be life-changing in the life of a child.
Yeah, it's there's no question to that. I mean, I think all of us would have some examples. Those of us who can look back fondly on our school experience can look back and say, "Man, there really were a couple teachers, a couple places that inspired some hope." You know, even outside of my family, depending on what your family was like, who made a difference and who gave you just a little spark of belief that you could do something and be something different.
Amazing. Fantastic. And you're the lead pastor of a church. Tell us a little bit more about the character and the personality of your church.
Yeah, I pastored before I led the school, and then God took me down this interesting path where I was running the school, and I've been running the school for about 12 years. So I've been in and around the church for most of my really all my life. But the church is a large congregation of a few thousand people. It's actually in a different environment right here in York County, so just a few miles away, but in a more suburban environment. So I actually live in the city. I live very close to the school and in the neighborhoods that my school serves. So I live there, pastor out just a few miles away. And so it's a mix. It's a diverse congregation. It's one of these, if you've been to the U.S., it's a large congregation, a contemporary, but we're really focused on helping people know God, know who Christ is in this place, and being people who can live in this context here in a way that gives people hope, that helps people be good neighbors, and helps people tackle the very issues that we're talking about, even with regard to the school,
Mm.
make a difference in their own neighborhoods and communities.
Amazing. Beautiful. Great. So we're here because you've written a book and
Yeah.
it's now published, it's out there for the world to enjoy. But when did you first think about writing a book?
I've been writing, Matt, for some time, as a speaker communicator, I do it all the time. I'm writing, if it's not sermons, I write, for the local paper, and I've been blogging for some time. But for some time, I would say for some years, I've been thinking I really should sit down and take the time to write a book. And it just took a friend who actually had helped as well to kind of
Oh
say,
yeah,
yeah, yeah, Craig Sider. It took Craig,
yeah.
who's kind of a friend, coach, and mentor, to say, hey, you should really think about that. And so that was, sometime last year that we had that conversation, and
Mhm.
I'm grateful we did it.
Beautiful, amazing, really, really good. And did you find writing easy or was it a challenge?
I love writing. I actually am praying, and I'm hopeful that I'll have more time to write. I think the biggest thing that I need that you helped me with, Matt, was just figuring out where's the discipline, and how do you alter your current life a little bit, maybe even just a tiny tweak, which for me meant, just getting up. It was the crazy thing, Matt, was it was only a month. I just needed 30 days to get
Yeah,
up a little bit early. So I got up my at 5 a.m. and
yeah,
followed kind of the kind of formula plan that you set out, and that worked really well. And I thought, now I'm thinking, I think it'd be easy for me to write one to maybe even two books a year.
yeah.
So I'm already working on the ideas for the next probably two books.
Wonderful. Great to hear. Well, we're actually launching some masterclasses about book series
Mm,
here in PublishU because there's massive advantages to writing a series rather than one book. A one book gives you credibility, but writing a series of books, gives you positions you as having mastery in your subject matter.
right.
So really exciting. Delighted you're doing that. We should chat further about that too.
I'm sure we
Um,
will.
so so this book, Unlikely Good. I mean. I love the title, Unlikely Good. I mean, who's doing the unlikely good? I mean, all of us, you, me, the church. I mean, uh, tell us more about this idea.
Yeah. Well, my hope is that we'll all be inspired to move towards some unlikely good. The idea, Matt, came out of some conversations in my own community here. As many people would know, in the U.S., police have a really hard time uh, developing trust in our community, and there's ways right now that that's even being exasperated. And so, right here in our own community, back in the late '60s, our we had massive race riots in York, where they had to bring in National Guard, and so there's a deep, deep distrust between, I would say, specifically Black communities of color, and our police. And so I had relationships at the time with both Black leaders, Black ministers, and with our police. And we started meeting together just to have some conversations around, how do we build trust, and how do we work
Mhm.
together? As a lot of US cities were actually burning. I mean, they were having riots and burning. This was just a few, some years ago. So for 10 years now, we've been meeting together regularly. And what we said, and what the title of the book came, is that there are problems in our communities that seem like they're unlikely to ever change. And
Mm,
how do we work for good in those problems that are so unlikely and thorny to change, where we can actually accomplish some unlikely good? And I would say, Matt, I'm not trying to be Pollyannish in terms of what we've accomplished, because there's still so much work to do.
mm,
But 10 years later, I can tell you that Black leaders in my own community have deep friendships with police and with police
mm,
chiefs. And there's been some really neat ways that we've been able to work together. So it's really about planting some
mm,
seeds of hope in your community. So my hope is that leaders, that churches, nonprofit leaders, anyone who's got an inspiration to tackle a problem that's really, really complex, what they call wicked problems, would be
yeah.
would have a little would take a little inspiration and a little courage, maybe even some lessons from the book, to say,
Yeah.
I can do this, we can make a difference.
Mm, mm. And give us an example of one of the wicked situations, the wicked. scenarios that you've challenged and how you've tried to address it.
Well, there's a number of them. I would say in urban contexts in the U.S., education is one where
Yeah.
you have kids who are very poor who would seem, you look at my local high school has a here in my own community has had historically about a 60% graduation rate. So it means 40% of kids are not making it through graduating high school, which means they're likely to be hard to employ, hard to get jobs, and they're going to live in poverty. And then with all the issues that come with living in poverty. And so I look at Logos Academy as a school that's tackled unlikely good for 28 years has been, we have our not only do we probably have like almost 100% graduation rate, 70% of our high school students in the last 6 years have gotten full ride scholarships to colleges.
Wow.
So which is it's incredible. And so that's one area. I would say there's any number of thorny issues that we've been involved in. I mentioned the police and community issue, building trust between. We've seen some real good progress on that front, and I'm involved tangentially in a number of other community issues. They all tend to be end up being interconnected. You know,
Absolutely.
and so as you're in one, you kind of end up migrating to another. Um,
Mm,
but with just a little bit of time and trust, and I think that's the critical building relationships and trust with people and getting people to sit at a table together. It's amazing what can get done. That's just
mm.
become a lot harder. That's become a lot harder to get people to sit down together over the years.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And so, in your book, I mean, obviously we're going to buy it and read it, but yeah, just give us one of the nuggets. I mean, you've mentioned quite a lot of things already, but give us one of the nuggets that you'd love people to take away from the book.
Well, I think there's a process of how you think about change. Okay, so there's an expert named John Cotter who wrote on change management theory,
Yeah.
and he specifically talks about how you need to help people see a crisis before they'll ever actually have the impetus to want to change. So you need to see in your community there's something that you would love to see change. Something I call it something that breaks your heart in your
Mm,
community. And I think if you can start there and you can begin to work out of that, bringing people together who kind of share a concern about that and sitting down and beginning the process of I kind of laid it out in three stages. First stage I said is to dream about what could be, begin to
yeah.
develop some vision. Moving from how do you move from something that's breaking your heart to a vision of what could be. I, I think if we would start there, and if I can just help people even just get inspired to think about that, to dream that something could be different, I think that's where the work is born. The rest of the book actually lays out the process for how you do that in the US. How are you going to run a nonprofit? I run several nonprofits. How are you going to do that and sustain that work? It's very hard to do that kind of work, but you got to start somewhere. And I think it's I get excited when I get time to spend with people who will dream about what something could be, and then
Yeah.
begin to say like, let's build some plans around that.
Yeah. Let's take some steps. Love it. Beautiful. So we're going to go out and get your book, obviously, everybody listening. I mean, it sounds fantastic. Um, in writing the book, what did you find? I mean, I know you said you're experienced in writing, you're writing sermons and articles in the paper, and what did you find the biggest challenge in writing your first book?
It reminds me back of years ago. I had a wise elder in one of my churches say, your sermons, your in writing sermons, the biggest thing is your editing. Like, what are you not going to say?
Yeah.
That to me is I had no problem actually. Initially when we were talking about 30,000 words, I think I ended up at 45,000, and I probably could have scaled that back. I mean, this probably could have been, to your point about series. This probably could have been books one and two in a series potentially. So I do think that the hardest thing is just figuring out what you're not going to say so that what you want to say shines through really clearly.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think when you're a content creator, if I can call it that, and communicator, there's so much you can say, but it's about what needs to be said for who you're writing for and what you want them to take away. And yeah, it's a great challenge.
Truly.
So, Aaron, as we wrap up today, what's your highest hope for what the book achieves in the world?
My goal is that I really wrote with emerging leaders in mind, even some leaders who've tried their hand at making some change and maybe feel like they failed. My hope is that it will inspire people to say, we really can make a difference if we
Mm,
take the time to develop a deliberate, thoughtful, careful process. Um,
mm,
studying the problem, but really ultimately sitting down with other people who who need to be involved, who will work together. If I could see and hear stories of where people are tackling
mm,
challenges that would seem to be impossible, um,
mm.
I'd feel like, man, that's what I was hoping for.
Absolutely. Well, that's what we're hoping for too. Thank you so much, Aaron, and thank you all for joining us on the PublishU podcast, uh, exploring the real life stories of authors from around the world. If you want to write a book like Aaron's written a book, or a book series as it's going to be now, why don't you reach out to us on www.publish the letter u.com, PublishU.com. We'd love to speak to you. And if you've enjoyed this broadcast, why don't you subscribe for more? And thank you for joining us, and goodbye for now.